Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get cut. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Well, I guess I'm a little bit late here for retail sales. U.S. retail sales. Where's the month-over-month number? Retail sales. Month-over-month, we were looking for a reading of 1.4, and we got 1.7. And core retail sales, we were expecting 1.4, and we got 1.9. So everything, pretty good. Treasury's down. Let's come to the charts and take a look. You can see mostly where we were yesterday, but now pressuring the downside. S&P 500 though seems to be liking it. They did finally clear out the gap here. It looks like, so remember we were looking at 4140. We did, in the end, because we were getting it like right about here, we did in the end kind of get the drop that we wanted, but it wasn't very, very big. So, and then a little bit higher here in Treasury. They're still, hopeful about a deal with Iran. So here's oil, gold, and silver, copper maybe tilted slightly to the upside here. Japanese yen is starting to look a little volatile. And Bitcoin heading up again. So I'm just getting over the news squawk now that Donald Trump is still saying that he doesn't want to extend the ceasefire again. Don't really see how you're going to get a deal just like right now. Another thing happening overnight, a story that like Iran hadn't sent their delegation, but then they were saying that both sides were supposed to be coming at the same time. It's no big deal. Trump's still speaking, so stay frosty here. No. I'm kind of clearing out some of my browser tabs from yesterday. Guess I'll leave that tab open. Trump says that we caught a Iranian ship yesterday with gifts from China. Is it bullish or bearish mixed messages? I mean, Trump is speaking, so you're going to see probably a little bit of volatility, but I'm not hearing anything actually really fundamentally changing the situation here. Like, it's just going to trigger a lot of algorithms and stuff, right? Should we catch the dip? Well, that I'm not sure about. I think that today is probably more of a wait and see, right? Because we will see what the results of negotiations in Pakistan or Islamabad end up being, right? And that could maybe spill over into tomorrow as well. I'm not sure. Then we should have a much more clear idea of where this is going. I would expect, well, so the thing that I've been seeing is that all of the kind of like media influence, basically just, you can tell when a story is out, administration officials and stuff will all start coming out and saying things about it, right? So you can kind of tell which storylines different sides are most concerned about. Right now, both sides are kind of pushing towards we want to get a deal done. There appears to be some disagreement on the Iranian side. But there is somebody over there pushing very, very hard for peace. So based on that, I'd be a little bit weary about the short. Oh man, my throat is still killing me here. Right. So if if talks collapsed and we're going to destroy Iran, I think you would probably see all of the markets sell off, right? So I'm a little bit weary about taking that trade because the powers that be do seem to be pushing really hard for a deal right now. How to write an AI news indicator to recognize it is positive or negative language in a millisecond. You just send it to a large language model and say, you know, with the prompt, is this positive or negative in tone? Is this positive or negative for my particular asset? And then you give them the message. U.S. employment additions accelerate as retail sales soar in March. $1 trillion tailwinds as companies reopen repurchase windows and execution catches up with record authorizations. Donald Trump is talking about the Federal Reserve building costs right now. So, like, Powell is leaving. He's got his appointment, Warsh. There is a confirmation hearing for him today, I believe, right? But he's still talking about how much it took to build the Federal Reserve. Can you tell that this is an issue that like genuinely bothers him? Right? He did construction. This is kind of like his area of expertise. He knows that it shouldn't take that much money to build it for the basement. Actually, when you hear about the amount of money that they're spending on it, it actually is quite insane. It does really make you wonder what they're doing down there. There's probably something way more to it, but yeah. I get why he's really upset about it. I don't know if that's a good reason to remove the chair before, wait the 6 months or whatever, but the Warsh confirmation hearing could be interesting. He could say stuff that pushes the markets. I think if anything, Warsh is likely, so Warsh is likely to be dovish, but in the past, when we've gotten comments from him in relation to like him becoming chairman, it's been hawkish. So gotta be careful with that one. I'll be disappointed if the new Fed chair doesn't cut rates. All right. Wow. I don't know if the Treasury market agrees with him. I will be disappointed if the Federal Reserve doesn't cut rates at least once. I'll be disappointed. I think that's a good way of putting it. Because that doesn't mean that it was the wrong decision. Just that I want interest rates to be cut. I'll be disappointed if that. I am 100% with Donnie on that one. Yeah, I want to see interest rates be cut. I think that there was a lot of things kind of being held back by high interest rates. I'll be like Seth in the stream after buying the dip. We'll wake up tomorrow when it's all good. I was thinking about this a lot yesterday because Mr. What is his name? I'm kicking myself for not remembering his name. The OnlyFans empire is collapsing. Did Anthropic just kill Figma? Yeah, I think that Figma is gonna die. Patrick Boyle, that's right, yes. Mr. Patrick Boyle, who I absolutely love and I think 100% deserves to be the top #1 finance creator on YouTube, has made a video called Prediction Markets Are a Scam. And I don't agree with him. Well, what was his point? Prediction markets aren't actually as good at predicting as people think. And maybe it really is just legalized gambling. And that the people pushing it kind of have not necessarily our best interests in mind. All true. All true. But I think that there is a good reason to have prediction markets because there are certain events that have impacts on markets, and existing financial tools do not provide businesses a very good way to hedge themselves against those outcomes. So I think that it would be a good thing if we had a more developed prediction markets. But he spent a lot of time talking about, well, a lot of Gen Z in particular kind of feel like that they don't have any opportunities And so they have shifted into this mindset that they're just going to be degenerate gamblers and try and make it big. I'm a little bit skeptical of this story. That's why they're attracted to things like sports betting. I think the reality is that people have always been attracted to betting, that men have always been attracted to betting, and all that's happening is it's becoming more available to us. Like, why did we see this huge explosion in people wanting to get involved in stocks and day trading after COVID? Because it was available to them. They felt that they couldn't do it because they got a day job. But then when they were working from home all day, now maybe I can be a day trader, and all of a sudden you had tons of people wanting to do it. Or maybe they didn't feel like that they really had the opportunity to buy stocks and to try and build up a portfolio. But then they gave everybody a check. So what should you do? Put it in the market. Yeah. So I think that people are just, men in particular, because where are the opportunities for men to take risks? You know? I feel like if you're a man and you never take risks in your life, are you really a man? I think there's a part of that like I don't know if I would feel like life is worth living if I didn't have opportunity to take risks. That's just the way most guys are. And markets are one of the few places that a person can really do that. Unfortunately, markets are so valuable. Like, there's so much money to be made in it that it basically becomes the most competitive thing on the planet. So the chances of you being able to successfully, especially on the day trading kind of scalping side, chances of you being able to successfully find that very, very low. Especially like on the technical side. Markets are extremely technically efficient, right? They're not very informationally efficient, but they're very statistically efficient. So yeah, most guys that try to do that are going to lose. Does that mean that we shouldn't allow day trading because for some people it's bad for them? Well, no. One, because people have to make their own decisions. And what we have found is that some people are just going to do this thing regardless of what you tell them. Two, there is a valuable economic purpose in the markets, right? This is how we finance companies. This is how we make decisions. So, like, it's not a perfect system. It's not perfectly efficient. We need to do away with this idea that the market is that current prices accurately reflect all available information. Okay, but it is really the only way to generate the data that we need to run an economy. So it's a necessary part of success, right? It solves an economic purpose. With a prediction market, does that solve a valuable economic purpose? Well, I think that it could solve an economic purpose. Question is, how valuable to society actually is it? But I'm a little bit concerned that the reasons that people seem to dislike prediction contracts has more to do with, I think that a lot of it is projection and dislike of Donald Trump, right? They don't like prediction markets because that provides Donald Trump and people in his administration opportunities to potentially make money on things. So a lot of people on the left are really, and I don't think that Patrick Boyle is left wing, but I don't really know. But a lot of people on the left seem to be triggered by it because of that. And so it's like, we need to protect people from it, and that's not a good reason. You want risk because you live in a virtually risk-free society. Yeah, I think Izzy's right. I think that like in our natural state, a man has to take risks to survive. And when you're not doing that, the desire to take, that biological drive is still there. So when you live in a world that's practically risk-free, you're still looking for opportunities to take risks. Well, I myself am also just always been of the mind that you need to do things to take risks. I don't know if I've taken as big of risks as I should have when I was really, really young. I think that I didn't understand the nature of risk until I already had too much to lose, If I had known how things were going to go, man. Like if I had known the way that my life was going to go, I think that when I was working for Goldman, I would have tried to move to New York and become a trader. And then after doing that for a few years, I would have tried to find ways to like start my own business or something like that. And I would have, because I thought, we're trying to buy a house. We're going to have kids. These things we bought the house, but we never were able to have kids, right? So that was several years of my life that I could have spent doing anything. And I could have taken bigger risks and done startup sort of stuff, and I didn't. Well, I don't know what kind of a startup or business I would have made at the time that would have been massively successful. There are lots of things that I remember having an idea. Hey, people in Utah, they don't drink alcohol, but they do drink soda. So what if you had a club that was just like mixed drinks? Okay, well, somebody had an idea. What if we made a shop that was just mixed soda drinks? And that has become insanely popular in Utah. So I was kind of on the right track. They're like bucket shops in the sense that regulators are calling them tradable contracts. I don't know that doesn't track for me. So if anything is like a bucket shop, it is regular sports betting books, because if you win in sports betting, they kick you out. They don't want you there. Because you are essentially betting against the guy that manages the book, right? Whereas in a prediction market, it works more like a traditional exchange. You are being matched up against somebody else that's taking the opposite bet, whether they're a market-making quant firm or another person. Guys, we either are being Patrick Duffy, and I don't know who that is. Who's Patrick Duffy? And start selling sourdough starter and trading platforms, or would if I started selling a sourdough starter, would you guys be interested in my sourdough starter? I read this study once that said that people that have a particular bacteria in their gut tend to be significantly stronger than people that don't. And this particular bacteria is a bacteria that you basically only get from consuming sauerkraut. So it could be a correlation sort of a thing, like German weightlifters tend to eat sauerkraut, and ergo that's why you got this statistical effect in the study. But there are some reasons to think that the bacterial balance in your gut could affect things even such as strength. But it's only like good sourdough, or sorry, sauerkraut. You can't just buy the sauerkraut in a jar from the store to get that bacteria, which means that you have to make it. So we should have sauerkraut starter. We can sell sauerkraut starter. That would be more in my area. Actually, one of the things that I do want to do right now, the obsession is handwriting. By the way, you want to see my handwriting? I've been working on it. Oh, you probably we have to turn the light off to see. There we go. Hey, it's pretty fancy actually. It's not very good, but I'm still proud of it, and I'm just like totally stoked that I'm able to write just like that, even though from all technical standards it's not very good. But after I've like fully burnt out on the penmanship thing, it'll come. I think this is something that I will probably always continue to practice. But you know, like the hyper interest phase of it's going to pass, right? And once the hyper interest phase of that passes, I think I would like to like make my own bread, like get the grain, mill the grain myself and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to the store just after the stream to buy sourdough starter. We do want to. I tell you what. I've been becoming more and more, I don't know, enamored, obsessed with this idea of making my own trading platform. There's a lot of thoughts that go through my head that like, well, I don't know if this is really going to go anywhere. Like, am I really going to be able to put enough time into the platform to really make it something that we want to use over other platforms? And can it really be a viable business? People are always putting, you know, things in my head. Not that they know the idea and they're like poo-pooing the idea, but just all these people saying that like all software is going to go away. You can't really make a business from software and all these things. And I just, to me, I treat it all as just noise. I don't care. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make the best platform I possibly can. And I'm going to try and turn it into like a real company, a real business that hires people. And yeah. And I'm kind of looking for people to kind of jump in and start it with me. But yeah, I really, really want to do that. So that's the thing. And it certainly has kind of taken over the desire to, well, I always want to be the best trader possible, but I haven't been as obsessed about it right now. And I don't really care if I make money from the markets or not right now. It's just because of the trading platform. I had some good work. I made some changes yesterday. We were doing like a code review. I had been, I had done probably 3 or 4 nights of the data stuff. And it got to a point where it was working and I was ready to pull that feature branch into the main branch. So before I did that, I wanted to do a code review of like the whole branch. And it found so many things, and some of them were kind of concerning to me, that they were there in the code. Like, the LLMs just don't necessarily write the best code. But there were so many changes. I was like, there's no way we're going to change all of this stuff and it's going to be fine. But we did it all. We changed it all, and it was fine. So I pulled that yesterday. So I'm going to start work on the next epic that I want to do, and there are some things that I definitely have to do to make it like a practical platform. Like, just because you have a chart, you can't even change what instrument the chart is or the time frame or anything like that. So you have to add that stuff in there. And well, that's the main thing, right? But So there's a couple of things you would have to do to make it like a practical platform. And then, of course, we got to get indicators working because that's like the killer feature, right? But I think I'm going to spend the next epic on making it distributable, meaning like building in the licensing management and building the exe or like and making an installer so that I can give it to you guys and you can test that. Before trading, I was trying to make my own social network. I still kind of want to make my own social network, to be honest with you. I really hate the way that social networking has gone, and I would really like to be in a different world. And if I had an idea as to how we could achieve that different world, I would 100% be building it right now. Simply because I would want to be able to have that network. Like the honest truth is that my home has always been online. And the places that I made my home when I was a teenager, early young adults have basically been decimated. And I miss that internet so much. I miss that internet so much. And I want it to come back. And I hate the wasteland that we have created with Facebook. I just absolutely despise what Facebook has become. I don't necessarily fault Mark Zuckerberg for it or anything, but I just hate what it has become. And if I knew, we could do some modeling to show this is why social media plays out the way that it does, and we could make some changes to the way that the application functions to change that sort of a thing, and I'd be all in. I also tell you another thing on that is that something that I think is going to happen, we've talked about this before, is that the de-anonymized internet is coming. It sounds like that one of the reasons why there's a major push for it right now is because corporations want to be able to sell your data, and sometimes they can't really tell who you are. So part of it is that. Part of it is kids. They're kind of realizing the problems that they have online when you can't tell who's a kid and who's not. It's coming. And you know what? I think it'll be a bad thing. It'll probably be ultimately a bad thing for freedoms. People will be attacked and harassed for political activism. Right now, you can go online, you can say things, you can have an impact, you can help people think, and you're anonymous. There's not, you're protected a little bit. But if everything that you do is traceable back to you, then anytime anybody says anything that one party doesn't like or the other, they're going to come after you. I think it's probably going to be a very, very bad thing for freedoms. But when that de-anonymized internet comes along, that social media platform where like you have to be a verified identity person to post on it, I'm going to be one of the first people that are going to be on it. I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be one of the first people on it, because I think that a major part of why social media sucks so much is because of anonymity. Anyways, I think that I got off on way too much of a tangent. A trading platform is like the idea that came to your mind the next day after visiting a Tony Robbins. Never visited any of that. You know what? The trading platform has kind of been always just kind of a thing. Like, we've made our own indicators, so making our own platform is kind of the next step. But I really think that a lot of the changes that NinjaTrader has been making has been the thing that has kind of pushed me in that direction. It's kind of been like, well, I may not always be able to use NinjaTrader, and there's not really a viable platform for me to move on. There's platforms that can kind of do it, but there's going to be things that I don't like that are going to be missing. So to really have the perfect platform, I'm going to have to do it myself. And then seeing that NinjaTrader was bought for $1 billion, and I'm like, I can make it better. NinjaTrader has like 3 features in the next release that were part of my free suite. So like they're taking some of the enhancements that I've been making over the years and they're finally applying it to their platform. Isn't that funny? After like what, like 4 or 5 years? Gives me a little bit of confidence. Like what? So they're adding a watermark. Is one of them. They're adding a watermark in the chart. They're adding a vertical line indicator. I can't remember what the third one is. There's still a couple in there that I'm kind of like, really? So one that I really strongly believe that NinjaTrader should just have in there by default is the inverse one. Because there's so many people, I think, that are trying to trade the FX futures, and everything that they read in Forex is inverse of what they see in the futures. So you just need an inverse indicator, and then you can get the price, you know? But whatever. Okay, but there was a comment I wanted to go back to. It's just gambling. We've put investment jargon on as a marketing ploy. Well, it's not an investment. That's true. Sports, or not sports bets, but prediction markets are not investments. The money that you put in there does not go towards running a business. So that's a significant difference between them and stocks. They do not go towards potentially purchasing something. So they're not commodities contracts. But most of the stuff that we trade aren't commodity contracts anymore anyways, right? They're E-mini contracts or interest rate contracts, and the CME has found those to be extremely successful. Like, people would rather participate in those than in the actual commodities. Yeah, CFDs are illegal. But why are CFDs illegal? I'll tell you why. Because a CFD, you are trading against the broker, essentially. And so the broker has every incentive to undermine you and so forth so that you'd never make money. So there's like a fundamental problem with that business. Now, that's essentially what you're doing with what they call prop firms now. I like to call them funded trader programs. Those are modern bucket shops. I think, based on the laws that we have, that those should be illegal. They should be considered the same as contracts for difference. If it's like, okay, you pass the combine and then you're funded and then you're trading a live account and you get payoffs based off of what you make or lose in the live account, that's all fine. But getting payouts from sim, what they call live sim, oh, you're funded, but you're not on a live account yet, but you can still get payouts, that should be illegal. That, I don't see what the difference between that and a CFD is. Prediction markets wouldn't be legal if they were leveraged. You're gonna have to convince me here. Convince me. I don't understand why leverage is the determining factor. Like, okay, you have leverage in options, like lots of leverage in options. Why aren't options illegal? I think it has more to do with the conflict of interest. But you don't have the conflict of interest in prediction markets. They are just the exchange. They're just facilitating transactions between other people. A few months after I passed Top Step Trading in ZN, they deleted ZN from the list of products, and yeah. That whole thing is still kind of has me. So one of the things is we talk about, like, oh, what are some things that we should do? Make some more clippable moments. I don't know. I've been ranting pretty hard. I don't know if anything that we've got so far is a clippable moment yet, but one of the things that suggestions that you guys come up with a lot is, oh well, we could do a combine or whatever. And I think we could. I think with the place that we're at, I probably could do some fun things on a combine and pass them and stuff like that. But the one instrument that I could do it in, they don't allow anymore. I think I could come in, trade ZB, put a little bit of leverage on, pass it 30% of the time. Sure. With the way that things are right now, I feel like that the best way to pass a combine is to either trade E-mini or oil. I suppose I could go in and do oil, but I think that I would have to do a lot of work to be a viable trader in oil. And I have emotional scars there, so that would be a real challenge for me, I think. I really thought Uzi was gonna convince me that it's the leverage is why they make it illegal. But it just goes back to this thing, like, what actually makes something gambling? I know better than to try and convince you of anything. I mean, if we had like a legal reasoning, like there was something in the language of the law or something that the senators said when they implemented the law that showed that, and we had it, that would certainly be convincing to me, because it's not a question of like, why should it be illegal? It's a question of why is it illegal? And if you had a piece of evidence that showed that is why Congress put it there in the first place, then I would have no choice but to accept that you're correct, right? But in this instance, I think that it was, one, the conflict of interest is why they made the rule. But I also think the conflict of interest is why you shouldn't do it. It's also why, like Forex is legal. I don't recommend trading Forex. Conflict of interest. You're trading against your broker. They're always going to F you over. I'm passing with euro and yen in 1 month, really? But they won't allow me to withdraw. This like the fact that people have trouble getting payouts is exactly like what I'm talking about too, right? It's a conflict of interest. And then even when you win, they make up excuses for why they can't pay you out. Yeah. It should be illegal. I really leveraging counterparty risk. Okay, counterparty risk. Now you got to pay. Counterparty is a broker. The leverage they allow puts the brokers at greater risk since they're the counterparties. That's true. No, that's totally true. And can a bucket shop have enough money to pay out everybody that they owe? And what they were finding back then was that often the case was no. Now, yeah, part of why that was is because you make the transaction with the bucket shop. The bucket shop isn't necessarily going out and hedging it, and it's a stock, so you can just continue to own the stock, and the stock can just continue to go up, and right. Whereas with a contract, there can be like a limit to it. But to that point, I think we could still make that argument against the funded trader programs too. I mean, there has been at least one funded trader program that went kaput. But that, again, is not an issue that you have with a prediction market. It's not a problem that you have with a futures market, and a prediction market basically works the same way on the exchange side. You know, the thing is, we're a Christian country still, and Christians have always been against gambling. Gambling is not the good Christian thing to do. That's why Las Vegas is called Sin City. Because you're going in gambling, you shouldn't do that. And if you're not going to gamble, then you might as well indulge in all of the other sins, like smoking and alcohol and prostitution and yada, yada, yada. Right? But what is the difference between gambling and speculation that makes gambling immoral and speculation okay? Some might say that speculation is gambling and that that's immoral too. Well, I have a big problem with that, because speculation is a necessary component of a functioning modern economy. And it solves a useful purpose in society. So is gambling wrong simply because it doesn't serve an economic purpose? Right? That a game where there is a major element of chance involved in it is wrong unless it solves a strong economic purpose? I don't care about the religiosity argument, but giving idiots more ways to separate themselves from their money is kind of yuck, and promoting it everywhere like it's your ticket to the big leagues. Well, certainly misstating and deceiving people about the probabilities and everything is 100% yuck. 100%. And the thing that bothers me the most, for sure. But that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be allowed. I don't know. Like, when you go to the religiosity argument, I mean, I think that is the primary reason why it's illegal most places in the United States. I mean, really, Las Vegas is the only place that, like, full-on gambling is allowed, right? And then, well, I guess there's places that kind of have little carve-outs, like Indian reservations and boats and things like that. But don't like the way that the treasury is running here. Let's reset our levels, or I mean clean things out so we can see the levels. Ugh. I'm just gonna delete all these. I feel like prediction markets are going to have a strange effect on sentiment, and it's going to become really apparent on a long enough timeline. They're going to have more influence on behavior over time. So Patrick Boyle actually talks about that. So he pointed out that when Mitt Romney ran, that there was somebody that was manipulating the prediction markets and trying to make it look like Mitt Romney stood a better chance of winning than he did, for instance. Yeah, people come in and manipulate the prediction markets because they know that affects sentiment. And like this weird thing that people knowing who's winning and who's not has a major effect on what they do is really weird. And I've never seen it where that it's a positive thing either, is it? Right. Well, right now in prediction markets, it's possible because they're very small. But there probably will always be a thing. Just like in the stock market, that happens, right? We don't complain about it so much because, well, the stock is up and people make money. Who's going to complain, right? But markets are like that too. Current prices do not reflect all available information. A little bit of chaos creates opportunity. China could never be the same as the US because of how much friction there is in their system. Let people have some leverage. Well, it's 6:30 in Islamabad. Seems no deal today if nothing happens in the next hour. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know when they're supposed to all arrive. About 5 minutes to the open, by the way. Like, there's the thing that's we have these ideas in our head about the way that society works, that's not really the reality. And what's been happening is we've been lying to ourselves for 50 years about how it works because we don't want to give up on that dream. We think, well, the reason that the financial market is good and okay, even though there's risk involved in it, is because current market prices reflect all available information. Well, if they don't, there are people that are getting rich that don't deserve it. There are companies that are getting investment that don't deserve it. Then what is the point of really having the financial market? Well, we know that the point of having the financial market is because it solves the economic calculation problem. It's the only way to get the information to satisfy supply and demand, and so on and so forth. But it's still very, very messy. So what can we do about it? We just have to accept that it is the way that it is, and that there are some things that to us seem unfair or whatever the deal is, but they really do end up being in everybody's best interest. Yeah. So I don't think that the fact that some people might make bad decisions with that is a reason to get rid of it. Now, if we came in and we did a study and we found that overall the number of people losing money from markets and all of these sorts of things, like the negative impacts that it has on society versus the net benefits that they have on society, and then we could have a discussion about, maybe it's better to get rid of it, or maybe it's better to limit it. Like, you can't participate in futures trading unless you have a license or something like that, right? To protect people from their naivety, to protect people from their addictions. But that's not going to work. I'm telling you, man, these people that want to do it, they're going to do it. And if they don't have the market, they're going to find some other way to do it. You say 10 hours until the ceasefire ends officially? Okay. Oh. The last that I had is just that the delegates had not arrived yet. Okay? They're in transit. You have to pass a combine to be allowed to trade. Do you see what I'm hinting at, though? So we're telling people, oh, you shouldn't trade because you would lose money from it. We shouldn't be saying that. I don't think you're actually helping society or the person by telling them that. People need to take risks, and sometimes they'll lose. As long as we're not lying to them about the risks involved, they should be allowed to make those decisions. Otherwise, none of us would be able to trade. None of us would be allowed. Well, I would probably be allowed, but because I have the license and I tread water, but I do okay. I'm not trying to make like a libertarian argument or anything either, but it kind of bothers me that so many people will just blindly accept the nanny argument. Oh, well, people lose a lot of money from it, so we should make it illegal. Oh, I missed this comment. There are Forex brokers that exclusively put you into interbank market like Interactive Brokers or Deutsche Banks. It's not all scam. Even Iron Beam can do that too, I think. Okay. Here's the open. Reversal impulses to the downside. So let me put this another way. We have gotten rid of the pattern day trader rule. So you're probably going to see a lot more people trying to day trade in individual stocks. And there's advantages to trading futures versus stocks. There's advantages to trading stocks versus futures. They're slightly different games. You can blow up so quickly in stocks, man. I tell you, it's really wild. There's going to be an epidemic of people trying to day trade and losing money from it, trying to day trade stocks and losing money from it. It's coming. And then everybody's going to try and say, oh, we shouldn't have gotten rid of the pattern day trader rule. So what's going to happen? Man, that open in the evening has been really bad so far, hasn't it? Okay, well, we're still above where we were yesterday. Remember, 140 was kind of the line that I was looking at, so... The UAE just threatened to price oil in yuan unless America bails it out. Oh, what's that? You know what? So I think I'm on another crusade, right? Like I'm trying to, I don't know if you guys particularly care about the point that I'm trying to make. But I think that it comes back to envy. I think, like, you have a thing, it has a distribution of outcomes. For some people, that outcome is really bad, and for some people, that outcome is really good. And we kind of have this thing where, like, oh, if it harms some people, then that's really bad, and we should get rid of it. But then, on the same time, if some people are successful with it, that's really bad, and we should get rid of it. So that's the attitude that people tend to take. And there's nothing that I have found that prevents more people from being successful than envy. That's the thing that prevents it. It's kind of like a way to excuse yourself from taking the risk, right? If I was successful, it was all because of my effort, and if somebody else is successful, it was all because of luck. I think that a lot of the sentiment towards prediction markets is more rooted in envy than it is in compassion. Yeah, guys, some people have more money than other people. And it will always be like that. It's kind of necessary for a functioning society. The thing that we do today is that some people will be down on their luck or whatever, and then, like, we don't know how to help them, and so we just kind of, okay, whatever, sweep it under the rug or whatever, right? We need to have a society that is able to empower everybody, whatever their ability is and wherever they're at, right? But this idea that there's some sort of equality or equity that is desirable and that we should be moving towards is complete nonsense. If you actually achieved it, it would collapse the society. And I'm telling you, not to get too religious on you, but I'm telling you, even the very order of heaven, there's not equality like that. In heaven, there are some people, there are different levels of infinity, essentially. You will all have infinite, but some people's infinite will be further ahead than others. Always will be like that. So you best just get used to it. Acknowledge that things aren't all fair and all the same. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change what I'm going to do. I'm going to go, and I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to do the most excellent work that I can do, that I'm capable of at that time. Because really, what's stopping you? So I do this handwriting. I should do the handwriting again. I think it looks very, very fancy and everything. But the reality is, technically speaking, it's not very good. Anybody that knows anything about Spencerian handwriting would know that that's like super, super bad. Like, he just started doing it this week. Well, that's because I did just start doing it this week. So does that mean, because I'm not ready yet, I shouldn't put the pen to paper? I shouldn't let anybody look at it, at the very least, because it's not ready? No, it doesn't mean that. Just because somebody else is absolutely amazing at it doesn't mean that I shouldn't continue to get better at it, right? You only are thinking that because you're concerned about, like, what it says about your place in the hierarchy, what it says about you as a person, these sorts of things. You need to just get over that shit. It doesn't matter. What matters is you are where you are, and you're going to get better every day. In the eternal perspective of things, that's what matters. And all of these other things are just distractions. purposely put there in your path to prevent you from reaching your potential. We will see more demons inclusive places. I'm not 100% sure what you were trying to say there, but I'm just gonna run with it. Yeah, the devil is very, very inclusive, and he kind of says, no, you don't do that thing and don't do that thing because it'll affect how people think of you. Just come here and be nothing with all of the other nothings. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of curious at the S&P took a pretty decent dive on the open. At least back to the extended session open. And but the treasuries have barely sneezed at it. Uh-oh, MCP vulnerability enables remote code execution attacks. Eee. Forex the next to dive? Well, I think the point I'm making here with the equities dropping here is that it does seem to be something specific to the equity markets and nothing else seems to be reacting to it. So this is some sort of internal positioning. You've got the positioning still, and then you've got earnings. And I guess retail sales too, right? And everybody else seems to be like, there's no reason to trade. Let's just wait and see what happens in Islamabad. So one of the things here, because you were saying earlier, I think it was you, Vital, that said, it's like 6:30 now or whatever. A lot of the big headlines kind of have been coming around like that 3 to 5 afternoon time period in the Eastern time zone. Like that's when a lot of like strikes have happened and there's back and forth and things like that. I'm guessing it's probably going to be a little bit similar. Like when the delegations land and meet, you're probably going to see another headline come through that they landed and the market will rally a little bit. And then, it's probably going to be like a 24-hour thing. I don't know what time the ceasefire is supposed to end. I thought it was Wednesday. So, yeah. 10 hours from now? I don't think that sounds right, though. But you're probably here finagling all night, and then tomorrow we could see how they kind of deal with it. One of the things is that even if they don't get a deal, I don't necessarily think that automatically means Donald Trump is going to start bombing them, right? So it's going to take a little bit for us to figure out what this is going to do for sure. And it's probably going to be a little bit frustrating for us. U.S. firm's thorium-based nuclear reactor advances to manufacturing. That's such good news. Here's an interesting thread. What's happening now in the West already happened in Japan 35 years ago. Between 1985 and 1991, the Japanese economy was booming. Everyone in Japan thought they were going to be number one. In that job market, if you went to university, you don't need to bother applying to jobs at all. Before you graduate, Companies would headhunt you, that pay you for a trip to HQ for interview, which is often just a formality. They offer you perks like company trips and lifetime employment, and all you need to do is to have a pulse. Even then, the ones competing with other employers for your attention, not the other way around. In 1991, the market bubble pops and the job market became sterile. The economy became about managing the huge debts taken on during the bubble. What followed was a generation of graduates who failed to get their career started and moved back to their parents' home and applied to anything they could find on advertisements, and slowly they gave up. They retreated into the world of indignity, of being a burden on their parents and anime. Many remain in that state for decades, and today they are known as the Hikikomori. The Japanese economy only recently started to bounce back because the 35-year term of the loans that people took on in the late 80s finally expired, and people finally have some spare cash to spend. On top of that, the post-90s generation was a relatively small cohort because few people wanted to have children in such a bad economy, resulting in what is today a low candidate-to-job ratio in employers market. So I guess we're screwed for another 35 years, folks. No, probably not. Because why? Because AI, probably. AI solves everything. Ooh, we should go into that. So you know what I'm seeing in AI right now is, okay, anytime that we increase efficiency, it tends to result in the standard of living for everybody going up. So I would say, based on that alone, AI should increase productivity, and that should result in productivity increases for everyone, and standard of living increases for everyone. But I see something going on with AI that's a little bit different this time. For one, AI has the ability to make almost everything more productive. Like the internet really made lots of things more productive. AI has the chance of making everything more productive. And not even everything more productive, but like making everything practically free, like labor free at least. Well, I don't think that we're going to get there, but there are some people that say that it will. But I'll tell you where it is getting to. It is already starting to get to a point where workers are more productive than businesses have the capacity to take advantage of. Like, if I sat down and just vibe coded as much code as I could, nobody else would be able to keep track of it. I'd be making too much stuff. It would be, there'd be all sorts of problems going on in the background, and we'd just be like, we deal with it. It's fine. Move fast and break things, right? Like the humans can't keep up with it. The business definitely can't keep up with it. So has that ever happened before? Where the workers become more productive than the company has the ability to take advantage of? Because that kind of seems to me like that's where we're going. It seems to me that that's where we're going. Okay, here's the E-mini coming back pretty hard now. Eventually, we're going to have to find a productivity equilibrium. A place where we say, yeah, some people have the ability to go harder. And maybe in some roles, we will have some people that go harder and some people that don't. But we're going to find an equilibrium, because that's what's best for the workers and that's what's best for the business. Slow down a little bit. It's coming. The first step is there's probably going to be a crash. They're going to realize AI is not fulfilling all the promises. The SaaS companies are still making money. All those shorts are going to get blown up. I don't know if that means like a market crash like in 2008, but there's definitely going to be like a rotation, let's say, right? Then the narrative will be AI didn't fulfill its promises and yada 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 yada. But then what will happen? Not that AI will necessarily get better. Maybe it will get better, but even if it doesn't, people will continue to use it and start to get productivity out of it, and you'll just see productivity skyrocket. And then they will have to face the problem of, okay, now that everybody knows how to use AI effectively, it makes us more productive than we know what to do with. What do we do about that? I think that in most cases, the solution will be we just won't be as productive as we're actually capable of being. Oh yeah, I had that tab up. So can I go into something else really quick? Palantir published a list here because we get asked a lot. Here is the technological So what is his name? Alex Karp is making a book called The Technological Republic, and they gave like a 22-point list of what's in the book. And everybody is pushing it around on the internet as Alex Karp's manifesto. But like when I read these points, this does not sound like a manifesto. This is not like this is the world as it is and the things that matter the most or whatever. It kind of sounds to me more like these are the issues that bother or that Alex Karp is the most interested in at the moment. And it's kind of sensationalist to call it a manifesto. At the same time, there's lots of things in there that I think, like the internet. I don't see anything too objectionable in here, but I'm sure that the internet, the Twitterati, not gonna like the things that he says. Alex, you better hope that Elon lives a long, long life, because Elon is the only thing between you and becoming the internet's #1 hated villain. A little clicky there when they're getting into the hives. Here's a story. I don't know what's in it, but I'm just going to read it out loud. The mystery cargo on the Iranian ship seized by U.S. forces in the Strait of Hormuz has now been revealed, and it explains exactly why the vessel refused to stop for 6 hours and tried to blow through the American blockade. The ship, identified as the MV Tosca, was carrying chemicals used in the manufacturing of ballistic missiles. It had just come from a Chinese chemical storage port in Zhuhai before heading toward Iran. So China's still supplying them, huh? So that does seem like a significant development. Stuff could be a great financial juice like breaking news voice. Well, I do try to, try to give the information. Part of it is just that if we're ever watching this back, right, years from now, only what's within the video might survive. So I have to say out loud whatever was happening and not just assume. I don't know. The one thing that I feel like I do a bad job at is reading out your names before I read your comment. Did you guys catch that the Apple CEO is stepping down and the product guy is stepping up? Let's see if that makes a difference. I do kind of feel like Apple has been lackluster. My name with the stress on A. Vitalis. Oh, is that one too supposed to be an IS? Okay. Vitalis. Okay. I'll say it like that from now on. What's this? New Kentucky Brown Jackson scolds Supreme Court colleagues? What was this about? I missed this one. There was a Supreme Court decision yesterday that was significant. Kentucky Brown Jackson rebuked her colleagues on Monday with a solo dissent. Oh, from RawStory.com. Saying she cannot fathom the majority's decision in the case. Boy. I don't know, honey, if like everybody else disagrees with you and you can't fathom that, doesn't really speak well to your qualifications. Brown Jackson criticized the High Court's decision in the District of Columbia, RW, to reverse a lower court decision that said a police officer had violated the Fourth Amendment by stopping a person without reasonable suspicion. The justices wrote in an unsigned per curiam opinion that the D.C. Appeal Court's previous ruling had failed to consider the totality of the circumstances. Vitali. In the dissent, she referred to the assessment of which particular facts to weigh and to what extent I cannot fathom why that kind of fact-bound determination warranted correction by the court. Jonathan Turley described the scolding dissent. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson has issued another soul-stinging dissent in a 7-2 decision with liberal Justice Elena Kagan joining the majority. The court upheld the authority of police to make a stop based on the totality of the circumstances. Turley wrote on X. Jackson wrote that I cannot fathom how the 7 justices could second-guess the lower court in rejecting the police claims. She accused her colleagues of mere wordsmithing. Just for the record, it would be useful to view those words. Justice appeared to call out her colleagues' decisions. Even if I would have assigned more heft to a particular fact in my own first instance assessment, I would not wordsmith a lower court in this fashion. In my view, this is not a worthy accomplishment for the usual step of summary reversal. Therefore, I respectfully dissent. I hate there's no discussion about why the majority ruled the way that they did. Of course, everybody on Reddit loves it. The evil 6 should be impeached. That's what these people on Reddit are saying. Dude, half of the comments on this thread are excoriating Jackson, but they've been downvoted into oblivion. That's crazy. More than half. Can Warsh move Marcus? I think absolutely could, yeah. Hey, guess what? We got to stick around for another hour. Normally it would be like time to go. It feels like it's time to go, right? I wish I knew more about this court case, but what I'm reading there just kind of sounds like that a lower court rejected a doctrine that had previously been established in the courts, and they were just reaffirming that. Russell Brand and Tucker Carlson, match made in grifter heaven. Oh boy. Oh man. One of the top stories on Hot Air is anti-Semitism is a core Democratic Party belief now. Okay, I think there's a lot of anti-Semitism on the left, but I don't think that it is like a core Democratic belief. I think that none of them think that they're anti-Semitists. We're gonna have to read this one now, aren't we, huh? By David Strom, there are plenty of Democrats who are not anti-Semites. Just as many or most Democrats are not advocates of abortion until birth, alphabet ideology, or open borders. But it is becoming impossible to run and win as a Democrat on a statewide or national stage without being actively anti-Semitic. And being friendly to Israel is absolutely, positively, without any doubt, a position that will kill you in a Democratic primary. And make no mistake, in almost any district in America, Democrats will primary you unless you express deep skepticism or even hostility to Israel. This take from Pirate Wires Daily. Embracing Jewish space lasers. Last week, on that CNN show where Scott Jennings debates 5 liberals every night until they cry, David Hogg said he's willing to give Marjorie Taylor Greene a chance. Yes, the woman who famously called him a crisis actor. Yes, that was her, wasn't it? Elsewhere, Ilhan Omar implored the Democrats to embrace Candace Owens, and it's genuinely insane, said the left-wing pundit Matt Iglesias of the Lunatics Turning on Trump, that the insane conspiracy theorist wing of the GOP has a better foreign policy ideas than the president. Funny and surprising by even my jaded standards, but it seems the only thing required for entrance to the mainstream left is hatred of Trump. Are you a hurricane space lasers girly? Are dinosaurs fake? And did the Jews kill Charlie Kirk? All good. We've got a big ass tent over here opposing the Great Orange Menace because no idea is more important than, wait a minute, what do we believe again? Ordinary Democrats can still fool themselves and believe that anti-Semitism is a fringe position, that hostility to Israel is based on hostility to Israel's actions in the Gaza war. But that is simply a tale one tells oneself, equivalent to the stubbornly held belief, despite all the evidence, that 12-year-old girls are not being given mastectomies by gender ghouls. Since facing reality is unthinkable, many liberals refuse to think about it. Michigan Democrat Party just endorsed a candidate for the University of Michigan Board of Regents who called Jews demons who lie, cheat, murder, and blackmail, shared an ISIS origin slur about Jews, amplified calls to ban Jews from Congress, and praised Hezbollah figures. And then quietly deleted it all. The Democratic Party is fundamentally broken. This was a tweet. Then back to the article. In Michigan, an Islamist is running for senator, and Democratic Party is so dedicated to hating Jews that it just nominated an Islamist to take the place of a Jew on the University of Michigan's Board of Regents. Normally, nobody even knows who is on the Board of Regents, but the hostility to Jews is so great that the crowd erupted in celebration at the change. Wow. Holocaust denialism is now standard for Democrats, and liberals now march at No Kings rallies alongside Islamists, all wearing keffiyehs. John Fetterman is one of the last Democrats who has the guts to stand up to the anti-Semites who have rushed to embrace Hassan Piker and all the Jew haters in the Democrat Party. And as a reward, not a single Democratic representative of the state thinks he should run for re-election. There totally are. I really do think that the left is rushing to embrace Hassan Piker, and I also agree that Hassan Piker is anti-Semitic. He has made many comments that cannot be interpreted as anything other than anti-Semitic. He's not saying, oh, well, they did this policy or this policy, and I don't agree with this thing or that. Nah, it was just like insults about basically their race, like calling them inbred and shit. Does any serious person doubt that Tim Walz became the vice presidential candidate in 2024 over Josh Shapiro because Shapiro was a Jew? 100%. The right choice was Shapiro. Republicans held their breath, hoping Shapiro would not be on the ticket, and breathed a sigh of relief when Harris chose Walz. Yes. If you think the Democrat Party appears to support Iran over the United States and Israel, you're not wrong. While Democrats are not huge fans of the Islamic Republic of Iran, they actually like it better than Israel. Wow, here's somebody on Twitter. My friend was arrested for chanting against the Islamic Republic in Iran. She is a single mother. To teach her a lesson, the regime forces group raped her in prison. She had a spinal injury due to the assault, and now she is having her uterus removed due to injuries. Holy shit. But let's have a nuclear deal and keep such evil in power to attack its people, neighboring countries, and entire humanity again. Why not? Wow, that's awful. A picture of bruises. I'm not going to show that. You can kill 40,000 of your own citizens, hang people for being gay, rape women, or pour acid on their faces and still be more popular than the Jews with Democrats. You know, he's making like a really great argument here, but I still think that the liberals all think that they're not anti-Semitic. That's the thing. What's wild is the things that people are saying and the stuff that Democrats are excusing, and they still think that it's not anti-Semitism. Even Rahm Emanuel, who is now running for president, although he has yet to announce, is distancing himself from Israel. He made a completely bogus argument about U.S. aid to Israel, comparing it to how we support other allies. Rahm Emanuel, no more U.S. military aid, financial assistance from the taxpayers for Israel. You're a country like all the other allies of ours, Japan, South Korea, the Brits, Germans. You can pay full price. You can buy what you want, but you have to abide by the laws. That should be it. No more taxpayer support. I was in the room when President Obama's largest assistance was under President Obama. We did the funding for the Iron Dome, but here, the days of taxpayers subsidizing Israel are over. No more financial aid. You know what's missing from that argument? In every other one of those countries, we have troops stationed in their defense to the tune of many, many more billions of dollars of aid, and with the exception of Japan, they are pretty awful allies. As you can see from the Iran war, we can work hand in glove with Israel in a way that would be impossible with Britain or Germany, and they actually have a functioning military that can come to our aid. Not to mention the fact that Israel is world-class in their air defense, improves our most advanced fighter aircraft, and has truthfully useful intelligence capabilities unlike Germany or the UK. Oh, man. Oh, man. This is just... this guy is just... he's going all for the shots. He is definitely, you can definitely tell this is like a conservative blog, right? Because I feel like he's kind of straying from the subject a little bit. Not to mention the fact that Israel's world-class in air defense, improves our most advanced fighter... Oh, no, I already read that. A new survey from the Long Island Council for Social Studies released during the week of Yom HaShoah found that nearly a third of Long Island residents believe that the Holocaust was exaggerated, that the Holocaust shouldn't be a required teaching in public schools, and that Jews should collectively, quote, move on. Are you kidding me? A third? That's scary. At a moment meant for remembrance, these results from an area with a very significant Jewish community is a harrowing reflection of both an education gap and how deeply hostility towards Jews has grown. Yeah. I think one of the things is that, like, when like the government or a political party or whatever decides they're going to go after a group, it really does move people's opinions. Like the ability to shift the public on things is scary. I told you that that the left is anti-Semitic. Wow. Abdul al-Said campaign staffer attempted to justify the ISIS terrorist massacre at Bondi Beach by arguing that the event was a Zionist Klan rally. A jihadist terrorist shot a 10-year-old girl in the head. There. That was in Australia, right? You can oppose Israel's policy without being an anti-Semite, of course. Israel is a country, not a religion, but you cannot embrace from the river to the sea or argue that Jews control America or argue that terrorists who openly say they want to kill every Jew are just freedom fighters. The hatred is real, it is obvious, and not embracing it disqualifies the Democrat Party candidates. If ordinary Democrats are fine with that, so be it. Just know that you are marching alongside people who think Kristallnacht was a good start. Okay, there's a little bit of hyperbole in there. I'll just maybe just a little bit. But I think this is a problem for the Democrat Party. Okay, a lot of Jews in America are like anti-Israel now at this point, right? They there's kind of this whole like compassion thing, like I don't think that they really think about like what other choice does Israel have, that sort of a thing. And they're just kind of pushed by the ideology. They think, well, how can I be an anti-Semite because I'm Jewish, right? But the longer this goes on, the harder and harder it becomes to deny that there is like real anti-Semitism being pushed there. And Jews will not be able to stay in the Democrat Party, basically. They're not going to be able to justify it to themselves anymore. And that could have that could cause massive shifts in American politics, because there's a lot of Jews in New York. All the Jews in New York suddenly started voting conservative. That would be like a huge problem for the Democrat Party. Not that I think they stand any chance of like a Republican winning New York anytime soon. But this is something you're probably going to continue to see over the next 5 years that we should keep an eye on. Hopefully, we defeat Iran here and we have peace in the Middle East, and without Iran stoking the flames all the time, it kind of dies down. That's my hope. It's really all about Iran, but I'm probably kidding myself. I think that a lot of people just hate Jews because they hate Jews, and they don't have any good reason for it. Sad. I need to come up with something more uplifting to talk about now. Apple's play for AI is a hardware bet, not software. Akash Gupta says on Twitter, Apple just named its next CEO. He doesn't have a LinkedIn profile picture because he's never job searched. John Turnus joined Apple in July 2001 straight out of Penn Mechanical Engineering. He has been at one company for 25 years. His title, the entire time, some flavor of hardware engineering. He has never run an OS team, an AI lab, or a services business. The board picked him over Craig how do you say that name? Federici Software, Eddie Q Services, and Johnny Sarauji, the actual chip designer. At a $4 trillion company that just spent 2 years getting publicly criticized about Siri. Apple Silicon is the AI moat. Every iPhone shipping today runs a neural engine that does on-device inference no competitor can match at that power envelope. The reason ChatGPT and Gemini run in the cloud is they need a building full of GPUs to do what an A18 Pro does in your pocket at 3 watts. That gap is widening. Oh, it's not that crazy. Come on. Whoever controls the silicon controls the unit economics of AI. NVIDIA controls training. Apple controls inference at the edge. Google is the only other company with both ends, and their consumer hardware ships under 40 million pixels a year versus Apple's 230 million iPhones. Turnus has run hardware engineering since 2013. He shipped the iPhone Air, the M Series Max, the iPhone 17. He worked side by side with the chip team on every major architecture transition, the A Series, the M1 break from Intel, the Neural Engine roadmap. He doesn't need to learn what's coming because he scoped it. The boards read, AI is a vertical integration problem. The only person who's been in every architecture review for the last decade is the one who just got the job. Tim's bet was supply chain. John's bet is the stack. The guy with no posts about it just inherited the most important hardware company in the world. Okay. I'm a little bit skeptical that that's actually the case. Like, because hasn't Apple kind of like not gone anywhere or done anything with the AI thing? Maybe they're just betting on that hardware and product is the way that they need to go, because they're not making any big game-changing hardware announcements anywhere more, and Apple is stagnating. Like, everything that I've read about Apple for the past 5 years has been that they need somebody that's on the product side again. That the current guy is not on the product side, and that's why they're not doing anything inspiring. I don't know that this necessarily has to be about AI. Statement is too strong. You cannot replicate a 1 trillion parameter model on your phone. It takes 500K in hardware for inference. Yeah. Commenter seems to be totally oblivious to the fact that inference costs will be the most in-demand costs. It's not about training anymore. Also, your phone compute won't substitute for cross-platform interactions on your laptop, desktop, etc. Too long didn't read, yes, it appears to be a bet on phone engineering. No, the AI won't work as described in that post. Gosh. Is Warsh already a chair? No. He's... Oh, no, wait. They did put somebody on the board, right? But it wasn't the guy that they put on the board, Moran. He was on the board, though. He was on the board from 2006 to 2011. So before my time. Long time ago. BTC Brewing, the most hated breakout setup, is back. Well, I mean, it is kind of starting to look a lot more optimistic in Bitcoin. But I don't know if I necessarily call that a breakout. They're kind of coming up into a confluence of resistance that if they break through that resistance, though, it probably will be really positive for them, huh? Vitaly says, in uncertain times, is it good to hunt for around 00 in the end numbers? Okay, so the most powerful proven technical behavior in markets that I know of is the market's preference for round numbers. Which is to say, if it ends in a 0 or a 5, or an even number sometimes. Or in the treasuries here, you've got a handle, and then you've got like fractions of that. So like half of a handle. So like right now we're at 111 in the 17. And if we were at 112, that's a full handle. So half of a handle is at 16. So at 8, 16, and 24, there tends to be more liquidity at those prices. Okay. So how can you use that to your advantage? Well, so just keep in mind, there's going to be more liquidity at those prices. That means if you've got like a runner and it's really going and you're kind of thinking, okay, this is getting long in the tooth, where's the place where it's going to kind of break? I would probably rather have my take profit below 16 rather than above, because there's going to be more liquidity there at 16. So it's going to be harder to push through it. Granted, there's probably going to be a lot of volume in through there, and so probably they will trade 16 and 16.5 and trade a lot there. But you don't want to have it very far beyond that, because that can kind of be a little bit of resistance. Now, if we're already at 16 and we're like rotating at 16, we might do that for a really, really long time. So that's another thing. Is it like a good place to get into? I kind of like to do that. Like if I want to enter into a trade and I think it's imminent and that's at 16, I might want to try and take it at 16. But I don't think that there's anything about my understanding of things that says that like taking an entry there is going to make it work better. Okay. Now, but one thing that does happen, particularly in stocks, is that when stocks reach those milestone numbers, they will tend to run after that. This is something that they talk about in the reminiscences of a stock market operator. Like if a stock reaches $100 a share for the first time ever, chances are that they will continue running past that. So kind of the opposite of what I was just saying, right? Here in scalping, if I think it's getting long in the tooth, I'm going to be concerned about it getting to one of those points because there's going to be more liquidity there. But that's more of a short-term thing. And a long-term thing, a stock hitting $100 just attracts so much attention that there's a very good chance of continuation through that. At least, on a swing basis. I bet you that we could probably make we could probably test that and see if that actually is like that exact. Because the only thing that we know for sure is that there tends to be more liquidity at round numbers. Well, we could probably make a strategy that says every time that a stock gets to $10, $100, or $1,000 for the first time, it's never been at that price before, and it'd be a little bit difficult to backtest because we would have to consider like stock splits and things like that. But when it's reaching those indications for the first time. Go long and hold it for a month, let's say. I bet you it would probably work pretty well. We could backtest that for sure. In indexes, prices shifted from the prices spots. Backtest. Yeah, I would have to get the Norgate data to backtest that though. It's another thing that I really want to have built into my platform is I don't just want backtesting. I want portfolio backtesting, because you can't really do portfolio backtesting in NinjaTrader. And that's really the place where, like, the money in the futures industry, that's where the money is made, is in portfolio momentum strategies. That's the latest from Jean-Philippe on LinkedIn. There are so many open questions about machine learning and large language models that it's hard to know which ones are the most relevant. In any case, we modestly tried to understand the so-called early stopping phenomenon, i.e., why not enough learning or too much learning may be equivalent to no learning at all. We came up with an oversimplified but analytically tractable random matrix model that reproduces this phenomenon for gradient flow in a linear teacher-student setting. In this framework, learning occurs when the isolated eigenvalue separates from a noisy bulk, the so-called BBP transition, before eventually disappearing again in the overfitting regime. The key ingredient is anisotropy in the input covariance, which reduces fast and slow directions in the learning dynamics. We obtain an explicit outer condition for rank 1 teacher that yields a transient Bike-Ben-Arus-Pechi transition depending on the signal strength and covariance anisotropy. The teacher spike may never emerge and persist, or emerge only during an intermediate time interval before being reabsorbed into the bulk. We tie this transient spectral geometry to a computable optimal stopping time where the signal is best recovered. Interesting. There was a lot of words in there that I didn't understand, but I did understand that, hey, we know when to stop the training to get the best learning. That's interesting. Nick Chimeros is reporting on the confirmation hearing today. He says, Kevin Warsh goes before the Senate this week for his Fed chair confirmation hearing. Oh, no, the title of it is Warsh embarks on high wire act of convincing investors without angering Trump. So the biggest risk in the confirmation hearings is definitely that he says something that either Donald Trump would really, really hate or that investors would really, really hate. So, like, if you do see a move from Kevin Warsh, do not fade it. If there is a major move from the confirmation hearings, that is probably something that will have real legs. Because it could mean that, like, the chances of him being confirmed changed. Oh, I just read something that makes me wonder, what is our lines of code in our database? Or in my project? Gonna ask Claude, how many lines of code do we have? I'm just thinking, like, I don't think that my project has gotten too big. In fact, I think it's probably only just over 1,000 lines of code, but it may be way bigger than I realize. May have already kind of gotten beyond me. Okay, I am hearing the new squawk talking about comments from Kevin now, so. Zelensky didn't move the market at all after oil pipe opening? Okay. Marsh says we need a regime change in the in conducting Fed policy. He wants to revolutionize the Fed. Sounds like. I mean, we do need to revolutionize the Fed. That's the thing. The question is the direction that we're going to take it going to be a good direction? If I was going to make a change at the Fed, I would push it towards more agent-based modeling and proactive decisions rather than just reacting after the fact. And it seems like Warsh is kind of getting into that, but also I don't think that he necessarily is providing anything extra that's going to allow them to do that effectively. I have about 3,500 lines of code. Yeah, that's about right. I wonder how the market is going to like it, though. I really don't think that the market is going to react too much. Like, that's the thing. I really hate these kinds of events. They're not very good for trading because it's difficult to be the first one to react to what he's saying, right? And the market often overreacts to what they say. So very often that they'll say something and the market's like, oh, that's a market moving thing, and they're just misinterpreting what he says or reading way too much into it, or the robots just completely got it wrong. That happens all the time. And the thing is that in this situation, Kevin's objective, blah, wow, objection and objective are so totally different meanings and they're such close words. That's interesting. Okay, Kevin Warsh's objective is to say nothing, right? To not say anything that moves the markets or changes anything, or, right? He's got to thread the needle between making Trump still like him and the market still like him and handling all of the barbs that comes from Democrats at Congress, right? It's not an easy task, but basically the way that you do it is you just kind of don't say anything. So you have to talk a lot without saying anything. So the most likely outcome, though, is that he is successful and nothing significant comes out of it. There is a very good possibility that he says that and the market has a small temporary move that just kind of screws you over, right? And then there's this small outside possibility that he actually does say something significant that might affect his chances at becoming confirmed, and then the market reacts extremely strongly to that. I would also say that if there's anything that he says that is kind of like the market decides to adjust their expectations and stuff off of that, it's likely to be slightly hawkish. So I guess if you really had to take a trade, I guess it should be short. I mean, it's safe to say that it's been a sell all session, but it's been very tight. I'm thinking about the fact that my project has 3,500 lines of code, and that sounds about right to me. I was like, it's more than 1,000, but it's not 10,000. It's a third of the way to 10,000, though. And what's going to get me there? Well, once I start putting Python files in it, that could explode very, very quickly. But the Python files, I'm hoping those won't necessarily be like a huge, like maintainability problem. I wonder what he means by the Fed needs a new inflation framework. I don't know. Well, the market's reacting a little bit to something he said there, huh? Nah, I doubt that he's saying that they need a higher base inflation rate. Oh, okay. That move right there is just reports that Vance has arrived now in Islamabad. Hence why we moved up a little bit. I'm guessing that he's just saying, hey, we missed inflation before, and why did that happen? Because honestly, it is an extremely legitimate criticism that the Federal Reserve missed, and they got it wrong. They straight up got it wrong. And how do you explain that? How do you not let that happen again in the future? Right. The issue that I have here, though, is that this all sounds to me like we're solving the last war and we're not going to see the next one. It's always what's going on. And I think that agent-based modeling is something that kind of allows you to see all possible outcomes. Well, it's been 5 years of temporary high inflation. Yeah. I mean, when you have an episode of inflation, it takes a long time for it to come out, doesn't it? It gets me thinking back to this thing that like Gen Z feels like that they don't have opportunities and that they just have to hit it big through streaming or day trading or something like that. And I think that it's just like such a sad thing. If you're a young kid, don't fall into that trap. Find something that's going to be viable for the future or that's at least viable right now and be as excellent at that thing as possible. Because all of those ideas are doing is robbing you of the time, and you're gonna get to 30, and then you're gonna be like, oh, I had all of these opportunities and I blew it. Find a wife and then anything else. I would highly encourage people to get married young too. Yes. One of the things that just like boggles the mind the most to me, that when I hear people kind of talking in this direction, I'm just like, how can you be so dumb? I think that's gonna work out. Is these people that think that they're gonna just put their careers first, and then when they're 40, then they're gonna go and have kids. No, guys. Oh, you have it so fucking backwards. You have it so fucking backwards, guys. It is so much easier to have kids when you're in your young 20s. Like, not just the fertility window and everything, but you're going to have more energy, and you're going to be poor anyways, right? And then when you're like in your 30s and 40s, you're in your peak earning years. The last thing that you need to be, pulling back your career at that point is kids, right? That's the thing that will kind of prevent you from being as effective at work as maybe you could. So you want your kids to be you don't want to have young kids. You want all of your kids to be like older than 8 by the time you get into your 30s and 40s. Okay, I screwed up, right? But that's when you will be able to like become the big boss or like progress in your career, right? And like these days people are getting promoted later and later, so it's not until you're in your 40s that those opportunities to become like a manager or whatever it is might even come across, right? So, and then you have young kids. Yes, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So have the kids early, get out of the way, so that when you get to your peak earning years, you can fully take advantage of your peak earning years. Okay, so the market is selling off because Pakistan negotiators are just confirming that they have no confirmation as to whether Iranian officials will be attending the talks. We had JD Vance has arrived. We were told that they should arrive around the same time, so we could give it, another hour or so. But the market is starting to price in that they're not going to come. It's just funny how they emphasize that it is temporary. Well, but okay, so here's the thing. The whole inflation thing, it was transitory. I mean, depending on how you define transitory. But I mean, it was like a one-time spike that didn't last. It still had a major effect on things. And it lasted longer than they said that it was going to. They said, like, it's transitory. We don't need to change rates. We don't need to do anything. Well, that was not the case. That was not the case at all. Right? So it's both the case that inflation was transitory and that the Federal Reserve and policymakers were just dead wrong about everything. Oh man, is this going to go much further? I'm a little hesitant to trade on this headline, to be honest with you. I probably should be going short. But the big thing I see is that we're at -2 sigma. So that's not necessarily the greatest place for me to take a position. Maybe you could do it in the E-mini. Maybe selling the E-mini makes sense. Hey, you know what? If we didn't have only 10 minutes left, I maybe putting that you know, stop entry down at 140 would make sense, huh? Hmm. I'm trailing 8 ticks, so what do you think on a trailing stop? So if you are taking a trade where you're expecting very, very quick momentum, you know, like you're expecting a really, really fast market and you're really going for the short trade, then theoretically a trailing stop should work really, really well for you. But every kind of backtest that I have ever done, any kind of stop, including a trailing stop, reduces your total profit. You're still short in the ES from yesterday at 7150, waiting for the gap close. But I thought, weren't you the one that said, no, it was somebody else. Somebody else that said that they were going long. Well, they went long and it was only like 10 points up and then they kind of fell down. But overall, yesterday didn't move very much. Well, this one, just note that we're still only getting to the lows of the day in the S&P 500. But that's the thing that kind of has me like, because the treasuries are selling this mother. They might go a little bit further. So something I should point out in the treasuries, we're at -2 sigma. So that's the point at which the options are kind of like going for it, right? But we're just shy of 4.3 in yield on the 10-year. So there might be a little bit of a push further and then pull back to here is probably what I would expect in the treasuries, unless they really truly, it's like not happening and everything goes awry. But what I'm hearing right now is a headline that, you know, in 20 minutes could be completely contradicted. So I'm not going to be looking to like run one of those, right? I think I'm looking to take the profit somewhere in here. But the E-mini hasn't dropped nearly as much as I thought it would. So maybe you could get in like at a sell at 41.40. Yeah, heck, why not do it at 150? 71, it's 71.50, right? Yeah, 71.50. I'm betting that Iran gives Vance the middle finger, then definitely won't be short. I mean, I think that's a pretty decent speculation, right? Everything that I've gotten, I would say I would still put the probability on that talks do happen. I think that talks do happen, but that they don't get very far, and that they do have to find some way to extend the ceasefire or something like that. And the reason I think that is because Iran was putting out headlines yesterday and everything kind of suggesting that like the meeting was still on and everything. But there does seem to be a split on the Iranian side. So I think that the guys on the Iranian side that are pushing for peace, though, will come through. And this headline that I'm hearing right now, that they don't actually know if they're going to come or not, it just kind of sounds like, well, until they get here, we don't know for sure, right? But they did say that they were going to be here. So maybe, you're right, that could still, like, it could come out any second now that the Iranian delegation has landed in Islamabad, and this whole thing would reverse, right? So, but I still like your trade, like where it's at and everything else like that. And if it doesn't work out, like, you're going to make a ton. So I can see that risk. I personally am on the other side of that trade, unfortunately, even though I think you have a good setup. Hey, and stuff, how have you been? Watch, it'll be like 5 minutes from now we'll shut the stream down, and that's when you'll get the headline, and they'll just be gangbusters higher. Because that's always the way that it works for us, right? Is that the market comes and does nothing while we're watching, and then when I go and do the regular day job, that's when the market moves. So I'm just kind of poking around here. Japanese yen taking a beating, gold taking a beating, copper taking a beating. Oil is on the rise by about, well, not even a dollar. Not even a dollar. So oil is not moving as dramatically as like some of the downside has been. So that maybe tells you some things too. It's really curious that the treasury sold more than anything else. What if you have a trailing stop until 1 to 3? Even when I've tested those, they didn't really make much of a difference. So the whole thing is when you move your stop up, you're taking on less risk. So your total profit in the end still ends up being less. Let me put this a different way. If we have a distribution of outcomes, which is to say you take, there's a billion different possible trades, and they're all kind of center around -1 tick, right? Because you give up the spread. Okay. It's more important to your total profit that you're exposed to this right tail than it is cutting off this left tail. Does that make sense? So every time that you move your stop, what you're doing is you're moving this line up a little bit. You're moving this line up a little bit. And what that will do is it will kind of shrink this line over here. It'll become like this. And often that just means more stops, and actually when you measure the area under here, this ends up being bigger than the area under here, and then the strategy doesn't work. Whereas if you still had the tails, obviously you do want to limit your loss, but if you have like a super long right tail, then the area under here ends up being worth so much more than under here that it all works out. And that's the way that momentum portfolios work. Right? And since markets are very statistically efficient, there's not very much in there that really effectively predicts price. Then you moving your stop and everything is really more about the distribution that you want to expose yourself to. Right? What will work for a retail trader more often than not is exposing yourself to these far right tails. Okay. You do want to limit these tails over here, but the kinds of things that I would do to limit these tails over here, it would be like a daily loss limit. The daily loss limit is the thing that in my own back testing helps the most. Basically, when your strategy doesn't work well, it tends to like really not work well. So if you're having a losing day, it's usually best to just stop trading. The amount of times that you make it back is completely dwarfed by the amount of times where you just keep losing on that setup. Okay, so I was just hearing something from Warsh again. So maybe it's a combination of the headlines coming out of Islamabad and Warsh together that are just kind of leading to the treasuries going so far. But there's the regular session -2 sigma now in front of us. And we are right at 4.3%. Yeah. Now, the thing though is that, like, what if your strategy is like literal scalping? I have this instrument and this instrument, and they're going to stay roughly correlated to each other. And I can see that there's an aberration in this one, so I'm going to buy this one and sell this one and just make the tick or whatever, right? Okay, in that situation, now having these stops and everything like makes a lot of sense, right? Because you're only expecting to make one tick anyways. If something happens and it moves like more than that one tick at that time, then something else is going on that is completely different from the setup that you're looking at, and you do want to stop out, right? But in that case, it's more of like an emergency stop. I don't think correlation trading works because arbitrage is real. Oh, it totally works. Statistical arbitrage is popular strategy. The last books I read pushing the theory that preserving capital is 2 times more important than gaining more profit. Well, so, how would I put it? Like, to have a strategy that's very effective as a retail trader, really what you want is something that actually predicts what it's going to do. So you make more on your winners than you do on your losers, and you tend to win more, right? Or that the percentage that you make is much better than break even, right? Like if you win 50% of the time, but your winners are twice your losers, you're doing phenomenal, right? And that's the sort of thing that you want to do. When you're doing a momentum portfolio, knowing what's going on in the market and that this particular momentum trade that the algorithm wants to take is a really bad idea based on the structure of the market and everything. Those are the things that really make a difference as to your portfolio surviving or not, sort of a thing. Okay. So in that respect, limiting your losses makes a big difference. But if you're backtesting an algorithm and it's just a day trading scalping thing, having like that set stop and set take profit basically always results in the strategy not doing very well. Because that very act of putting the stop in there makes your results basically follow the volatility of the market. You're basically preventing any edge that you might have gets erased by your stop and take profit. It works 100%, but not for retails. It works for set-out. Well, I think there's probably some places where retail traders can do it. It's getting harder and harder, but I'm sure there's probably still some places where there's less mature markets and yada, 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 and you can find something that's a little bit more sophisticated than just this statistical arbitrage. We really retraced that back. There was a 15K at 07. So somebody definitely selling it. Oh, and we went through the 14, huh? Okay, so I can keep track of this, but it's time for me to get going. I think if I had the short on, because again, this headline could reverse. I'm not 100% certain of it. I mean, man, I'll be really embarrassed tomorrow if this is the one. Like, this is where we found out that, yeah, they're not coming and it's on. And tomorrow we're hearing about strikes again, right? But I'm still a little bit too wary of that. In this kind of a market, I think I want to take the quick profit, but I'm not seeing the E-mini doing anything quite yet that has me like, okay, that was the quick profit, right? And in fact, let's come in here. Extended session -1 sigma. That's a good take profit area. So if I saw it get down to there and there was a little bit of a pullback, then that would probably be me getting out. you'll put that moment into a new intro that like if this is the place where it just runs, it'll be embarrassing. Yeah. Obviously, it's an acknowledgement that like this is not an area where I think I have an edge, and the chances of volatility, like headlines really pushing the market the other way, are really high here too. So just be careful with it. Yeah. These are the moments that make or break accounts. This is one of those places where like avoiding the really, really massive loss matters more to your account surviving. Those are the ones that maybe you give up, right? But just doing it based on that the market moved 10 points never helps you. You get what I mean? At least in all of the backtesting that I've done. If you can do a backtesting that shows you like, oh, we added this stop and it really worked really well, then I would be so interested to see that, right? Because this is kind of one of those paradoxical things that we've all found in quantitative finance, is that really what matters more is the amount of risk that you take. So. All right, guys, I'm just blabbering. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Hopefully we're not in full-blown Armageddon. But whatever it is, we'll be here. So until then, stay excellent.